Hey, you know when a guy escorts you home and that special moment has come? He's looking at you, leans in for a kiss, and you wait for him to finally buzz off? And he will never know that as soon as he turns his back, you're going to run away from that house because it's not even yours. Your house looks so weird that you're ashamed to show it to anyone. If you have never lived in a house that looks more like a barn, don't judge me for what I did. I was prepared to do anything for money and a better life. My father is an alcoholic. There may be no food in the fridge, but there is always a bottle of whiskey. Once, I was going for a walk and asked for some money. Dad handed me 10 cents and told me to go crazy. I wanted to throw it in his face, but I kept it. It reminded me that I want to achieve something in life, and I would succeed, whatever the cost. But I couldn't even manage a TikTok. My classmates called me a bum and a loser in the comments. I was so lonely that I wanted to do something stupid. But instead, I created a new account and put on a mask so that no one would recognize me. But instead of fans, I got my own personal maniac. He demanded that I send him my real photos. He said that he could hear my voice in his dreams and imagined how I looked without a mask. And he offered to pay me well if I agreed to a meetup. Yeah, right, I thought. But he didn't let up for 4 months. So I agreed to talk via video call, but with a mask on. He looked to be about 19 years old. He said that it was the first time this had happened to him. He had fallen in love with my voice, even though he'd never met me through the internet. He turned out to be very cute, although Ted Bundy was cute too. He said he'd give me $1,000 for a date without a mask. I agreed. It was a lot of money for me. It would be enough for the first time I leave my parents. But first, I wanted to make sure he wasn't dangerous. So I came to the cafe earlier and got a table in the corner. He wouldn't know what I looked like, after all. He came with a bouquet and looked even better in real life. There was a couple sitting next to me, and they asked me to take a picture of them. I only said a few words to them, and when I sat down at my table, he was staring at me intently. I shivered. I asked for the bill and left. Once out on the street, someone grabbed my arm. It was him.
"It's you,"
he said. I shook my head, and he told me that he was sure because he remembered my voice well. I was shaking all over, and he asked me to walk with him for at least a few minutes. He turned out to be cool and completely normal, but I still felt uneasy. He had an expensive watch, an iPhone, nice clothes. We were miles apart financially, and he had no idea. The price tag from my dress was rubbing my back. I had bought it that morning and was going to return it to the store the next day. At the entrance to an expensive restaurant, I said that I wasn't hungry, but he insisted on dinner. I felt out of place, and when he asked what kind of wine I wanted to accompany the oysters, I could barely resist asking for just a burger and a beer. After dinner, he told me that his parents were rich and that all the girls he knew were different from me. They acted like bitches, and that's why he fell for my voice so much. It was a kind voice. He took my hand and said that he also liked my simplicity and sincerity, and he hated being lied to. He asked about my family, and I told him that my parents were lawyers, both of them. And they were very strict and didn't allow me to date anyone. So it was time for me to go home. I kissed him on the cheek and quickly left. I decided it was better for us not to meet again. I didn't want to lie about my lawyer parents again. Before going to bed, I received $1,000 from him as promised for the date without a mask. Then he asked if I go on dates for free. Butterflies fluttered in my stomach. But I wrote, "We can't date," and immediately erased it. We saw each other almost every day. He was the kindest, sweetest, and most incredibly romantic person. And, of course, I fell in love. One day, he said that he wanted to meet my strict parents, who wouldn't even let him walk me home. I told him that they had gone away on a business trip. He was delighted. That meant he could come over and finally find out where I lived. God! I didn't know how to get out of it, and I mumbled something incomprehensible. That offended him.
"You're hiding something,"
he said. It was awful. He thought I had someone else. I couldn't bring myself to tell him the truth to calm him down, and we had a big fight. I was worried that it was the end. But the end of our relationship was even more epic. Dad met me outside after school one day. He could barely stay on his feet and told me to run him out for a bottle. I didn't want to fight, so I agreed. And when I turned around, I saw him. It turned out that he had followed me from school. I knew that was the end. He hated liars above all. I cried all night. The next morning, I sent him a long voicemail where I told him my whole story, but he didn't answer. A week later, and I'm still alone. And then I found a big black bag in the school drawer. The last time, they had put dog excrement in it as a prank on me, but it had $10,000 in it, and a note.
"You don't need to wear a mask. I love the real you."
It was the happiest day of my life. We talked for a long time, so there were no secrets between us. He forgave me and understood. And now I know for sure that you don't need to lie to a person who is really dear to you. And if you dream about something strongly enough, it will definitely come true. Have your dreams already come true? Thanks for listening to my story.